Any tips on feeling energies more astrally, elements, vital energy, etc., versus having it just stay as a mental experience or an experience in the imagination? Okay, now this is an interesting one because uh, this is about making your practice as tangible in the physical, I think, as it can be, rather than just, is it real or is it some kind of delusion? And, I think people on this panel who have, especially getting into clairsentience development, will recognize the value of that practice because it adds a certain gravity and weight to what you are doing, making it more palpable, and there's more opportunity for genuine conviction of experience to arise. So, would anyone like to comment on this?
Sure. Yeah, clairsentience training, obviously body training. If you're a mechanical type practitioner, those are definitely the two ways to go. Because again, as Phil points out, and a lot of us here point out all the time, when you're working with things at a mental level, you can delude yourself into thinking this is
Yeah.
some aspect of psychology. When you ground stuff into the deep astral or near physical, you're forced to confront the fact that that's not true. Now, whether you can do that or not, like we talk about, deals with, how good is your clairsentience? How much body work have you done? But I will add this one caveat here because it kind of piggybacks with what we just talked about. Deep faith in the Akasha that generate trumps all of that stuff. Now, again, because people have some issues with religion in our community writ large, this can get a little tricky. But if you look at great magicians of the past, they were all men and women of deep, inalienable faith.
Yeah.
And that gets discounted a lot. And I'll go back to a student of mine who generated non dual light, complete immersion into it in whole 6 weeks. Deep faith. The same individual almost got himself and his fiance killed in Siberia when he invoked a hailstorm, and the hail ended up being soccer ball sized, you know, out in the woods in Siberia. So if you're approaching this from a standpoint of an intellectual, clairsentience, body training, that has to be your first step. But don't confuse that with the power of faith. And if you want to go dark side with this, you can even quote Vader. You know, do not do not ignore the faith, the power of the dark side. Well, that was Vader talking about his faith and what was going on. Again, mechanics, if you have to use them, because they're easy to break out, but don't ever ignore the underlying meta forces. That's that's what I would say.
Right, valuable. Thank you, thank you. Would anyone else? Please,
Um,
Victoria.
Bob made great points, but I would suggest trying to do build the ball exercises.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to say that too, Phil?
I was thinking of it. I'm really pleased you say it because you can explain it better than I could.
Well, maybe not, because I was born clairsentient, so I didn't have to build it kind of raw. It was just there. But I know the build the ball exercise really helps. So you can start with your palms, close or as far as ways you want, and you can just imagine charging it with energy and feeling that energy. And you can even do experiments with other people where you maybe put your balls together and separate, or like pass your ball to them and they take it, and then it becomes a combined ball. And then you can build it up. Um, but then that's also, I feel like I talked about this in the last one too, this last week. Maybe I didn't, or maybe it was in a different post, but about how you can also use build the ball to charge energies and learn to discern different energies. So if you wanted to do a ball, say with solar energy or lunar energy or Mercury energy, I mean, that's one way besides mental wandering or astral traveling, where you just start getting hands on because as you develop yourself magically, I feel like being able to identify different energy signatures becomes very important, because you have to understand where is the input coming from, and what are you getting, and what are you sending, and what are you working with. So for example, if you are invoking a spirit and the counter intelligence ends up showing up, but you don't have the bearings to understand, oh, this is a counter intelligence trying to masquerade as the original intelligence, then that becomes an issue. So you could start at the very basic level, developing discernment of different energy signatures just by building the ball. And you can even do your soul mirror work. So you put in like love or joy or even negative things like sadness, and you can put them in the ball and just kind of observe them and understand, okay, how is this operating? So then you can even see, oh, how is this energy that's usually within my soul, and then you put it into a ball, and then you can look at it objectively as well. I mean, that's more of an intellectual exercise that you are infusing into an astral level exercise, but the tangibility comes with building the ball.
Wonderful. Thank you. Philip, have you got anything to share on this?
Yeah. Now that the ball's been mentioned, I something else I was desperately thinking about. Within Bardon, obviously, you can intensify the elemental work so that you do genuinely feel quite hot or quite cold or heavier or lighter. So that would be, just emphasizing that those exercises can produce an output. Outside of the Bardon corpus, one of the things that I've come across that people get some very strong results with, as I mentioned last week, is Pope Runyan's dark mirror method, which is, I mean, if you look historically, you can see similar things being done. For example, in Enochian magic, D. and Kelly sometimes used a sheet of obsidian, which is sometimes shown at the British Museum and actually got stolen and then returned a few years ago. So, there are other ways to get early results if you want early results. But I'm going to tie this back to the earliest question we had about how do you maintain your practices. And I would suggest that if you do rigorous practices, you'll suddenly get one of these emphatic, non-mental or astral or even physical results just through the pure rigor of what you've done. And like I mentioned, when that occurs, you kind of just, well, there we are. That was really good. And now you just kind of move on. You're not so concerned about it anymore. You're more concerned about the broader approaches to developing the self. I suspect after that, as I mentioned, breakthrough experience. But there are ways to have these breakthrough experiences both within Bardon's practices and from without. The ball technique is a really good one. Pope Runyan's dark mirror. But as I say, if you're just looking to be really balanced and strong within Bardon stuff, just go solid into the elemental stuff until you're boiling on a cold day, and stuff like that. That would be my suggestion.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, some great feedback there. And, just for myself, in the early stages of energy healing training, especially in Reiki, there's practices that we focus on having another living body next to us, and we basically tune into this feeling, and then we move our hands over and we develop sensitivity and awareness there. And this can be also, translated into going out into the forest, finding a really big tree, which is essentially a large vital force emanating radiation device. And you go out there and you say, hello, tree. And then you transfer your consciousness, or you just start building the ball, or you find a way to play with this idea of a torus field, or some kind of, you're tuning in. Basically, this thing, the problem with people is that we're all roughly the same. We're not, unless you're dealing with a small person, a really tall person, a giant tree is going to, effectively, in my understanding, qualitatively is going to put out a larger amount of the stuff for you to interact with. And so you can develop conviction by working with people at a subtle level. Then you can also go out into the forest and you can connect with a tree and have quite a unique experience. And then you go to another tree, maybe a different species, and it has a slightly different signature. So I found that going one further, like it's one thing, so you can start with the sensitivity here. you can change the intention of what the flavor of that energy is, whether it's vital, astral. I mean, mental, obviously, a little bit outside of this, but you know, and then flavoring it elementally, and then also environmental sort of training partners as well, being large emanating devices that are just like right there. Hello, friend. Connect with that. Wonderful. And this is, like I said, going one further where it's like, yes, I can feel it, but then it's like going, now I'm going to explore this. And I found that that really reinforces my faith via conviction through developing awareness, having regular tangible experiences. Mark Rasmus talks about this with his book of trees, and I found this to be a very valuable exercise. And so, yeah, great question. Thank you.